So I'm with my friend Matt Hugg, who is the president and founder of Nonprofit.Courses. He's been teaching nonprofit management at the university level for many years. He's a frequent speaker on the subject of nonprofits. And I've invited him to answer a few questions that I think bankers are thinking about when it comes to nonprofits. One of the questions, Matt, that oftentimes is asked, it has to do with what kind of nonprofit organizations should a banker get involved in? Now, this is a question that's posed oftentimes by people who are early in their banking careers, who are thinking about getting more involved in the community. If you were talking to a young banker about getting involved, what would you tell them?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And so the first thing, obviously, is look at your customer list, right? And see where you can leverage that relationship that you already have, or that you should, or they should already have with you. And you know, you're going to be an asset, but also an endorsement wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to look at you and say, wow, you know, somebody from thus and such bank is with us either as a volunteer or on a board or something, right? And that brings up another question you have to ask yourself is, what role do you want to play?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, there's some incentive or push for you to serve on a board. And if you have, if you're at a branch level at a bank, you know, in management of some sort, depending on the nonprofit, they might be open to that. But even if you're not on the board, you should ask yourself, how do you want to be engaged? You know,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to do the things that you do on a day-to-day basis? I mean, they might say, oh, you know, she's a banker, make her the treasurer. Or do you want to do mission work in the nonprofit? Not that being a treasurer isn't mission work, but you know, being right there on the line, serving however they, you know, whatever their organization does. So yeah, but it's important to use this as a relationship building opportunity, not just for that particular organization, but as a community as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
to get the bank's name out there, to show that you're engaged in what's happening, you know, do the street fair thing sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in support of the organization, for example, you know, that,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. There's some really good opportunities that, you know, and the smaller the nonprofit, the more they're going to probably value somebody from the bank or
Mm-hmm.
our bank being engaged with them.
I think that's good advice. I think thinking about the role you want to play is important, because if you're trying to get visibility, being the treasurer may or may not be the way you want to do it. There's some other roles that people can play that might be more visible, like helping to recruit speakers.
Oh, yeah. Well, or even just, you know, leveraging your network on behalf of the organization, and connecting them with resources, not just financial resources, although that's a good thing, you know, to help that way, but also other things, other people in the community that can help that cause, whatever it is, and then reflect back better to you. Also, you might find that this is going to expand your own network of people in the community that will lead to other business out there. You know, some folks will be really pleased to see your bank have somebody engaged in the nonprofit community, and that could, you know, send some business your way. So
absolutely, I think that is one of the things that bankers are thinking about to try to expand their networks. How important is it that a banker be interested in the mission of the organization?
Well, you know, I think from a personal level, that will just keep you engaged longer. I mean, you know, you don't want to go to meetings for something that you just don't care about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just good practice for anybody to work that way. But you know, there are going to be times when it's important for a business or a community to support particular organizations that may not be, you know, your sweet spot. And I'm not going to suggest that you should slog through those, but I am going to say that that you need to figure out how to best motivate yourself personally in those kinds of environments so that you give them the best you can of your time. because really, you know, it's volunteer time, and
Mhm.
while you might be there representing your organization, you want to have some personal motivation in this. So, you
Yeah,
know,
I would agree with that. I think it's also important in the case of a young banker to get some advice from perhaps managers within the bank
mm,
to see whether there's some specific organizations that they would recommend they get involved in. It's also relevant to think about the kinds of things you can learn in a
yeah,
volunteer role, which is why I think it's really important to think about what you're trying to gain, perhaps in terms of management or leadership skills in a nonprofit organization. Have a point
oh,
of view on that?
you bring up an excellent point, and something that as I talk about sometimes, which is that you can get a lot of experience working with a nonprofit in a volunteer capacity. That's an important reason why a lot of people volunteer, because they, there's some skill out there that they can gain, like I said, leadership, but other skills that might be helpful in developing their career,
Hmm.
in just you know, doing better with themselves personally. So yeah, that's totally legitimate, totally great way to move forward with a volunteer assignment.
Well, I think this is helpful. Again, your suggestions about thinking which organizations to get involved in, uh, consult with your bosses, talk to your customers, think about the things you're interested in personally that might be things that you can support through your volunteer efforts, and think about over the long haul what this might do to help you become a more visible and engaged member of the community. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, even if you don't stay in that location, you know, because the banks move people around there or whatever, it's always valuable experience, and really a great way to expand your network and to help your business. So I totally encourage it, particularly with such a visible organization as a bank, and especially community banks.